right. Welcome everybody out there that you're watching Amateur Radio Roundtable, a show about ham radio, shortwave, electronics, you name it, we do it here. Maybe even a few other things. Hey, if you're out there listening on shortwave tonight on WBCQ, we'd like to hear from you. Send us an email to tom@w5kub.com and tell us where you are and how you're hearing the station tonight. Join our Facebook group. We've got 14,000 members in our Facebook group. It's just type in W5KUB up in the search and you'll find it there. And also, if you will, on our YouTube channel, if you will hit the subscribe button, it should be right about there on your screen. Hit the subscribe button. That helps YouTube to, kind of advertise our show to people that are looking for subjects similar to what we're doing. So do all that. We'll be grateful to you. Let's see. I was trying to think if there's anything else. A little later in the show, I'm gonna find out what Glenn brought me back from Hamvention. He's supposed to bring me a nice gift, so I'm gonna be waiting for that. The suspense is building up. We've got Rich with us tonight, and in the second half of the show, we're basically going to look back with a interview that Katie and I did with Chip Margelli about 7 years ago, and it's just a great video. The video quality was good, so I thought it would be appropriate to play that tonight. And we'll talk a little bit more about Chip too as we get into that video. Let us see what we've got going here. We've got Rich with us tonight, and we've got Glenn with us tonight. Let me pick up Glenn first. Glenn, how you doing, Glenn?
Oh, I'm doing good. Been a busy weekend and stuff, but things are starting to settle down a little bit. So we're getting there slowly but surely.
Okay. Well,
and working on the new book as much as I can. That was planned for this weekend. And as we mentioned in the pre-show, there was other events that took place that tied up the whole weekend. And you won't see her on the show tonight, but Shadow had to have some emergency surgery on Sunday. Prognosis is good. She's right over here chilling and drugged, and I want whatever she's on, but she's doing good.
Yeah, if she recovers fast, there may be some pills left over. You can take them.
No, she's getting them all.
Well, I took some pills the other day, and let me tell you, I mean, there's good news and bad news. The good, let's see, how do you say this? The good news is I won't have any heartworms or fleas for a while.
Right. Well,
the bad news was I got the wrong pills. Okay.
Right. Well, these bottles were all marked, courtesy of Woodstock. So she's doing real good.
All right. Well, that's great, dear man. Gee. Okay. Well, let's just get into it real quick here before we get to Rich. I want to know what you brought me, man. I mean, the suspense has been building. You're supposed to bring me back this great present from Hamvention since I didn't go. What did you get me?
Well, I tried to get you something really, really nice. I even sent you a picture of it last week.
Yeah.
There was a beautiful Henry 2K amp on the cabinet and everything, but they wouldn't ship it COD. So didn't get that for you.
Well, but you drove up. You could have brought it back yourself, right?
I did not have that much room and weight allowance in my car.
Well, that's a nice amp. I do remember the picture, but I really don't need it, I guess. Okay.
Yeah. So in second place.
Yeah, what was second?
We're going to give you your choice. You can have your choice of ARRL hats.
Yeah.
You can have the gray or the navy.
Woo. Yeah, I'll have to think about that a while. That's a.
Yeah, but I know you don't have any of these.
Is that all you came back with?
For you.
Oh man. Okay.
For me, I actually didn't buy a lot of stuff other than odds and ends this year. Nothing really major.
All right. Well, I know you. I heard. I've been talking to some other hams. I heard you did get me something really nice. You just didn't want to talk about it on the.
Yeah, no. Well, we don't want the IRS to
That's
get their
true.
sticky fingers
And,
into this.
and I understand it's really, really nice. And hey, you shouldn't have done it. I'll just say that you shouldn't have done it, man. All right.
All right.
Let's jump
Consider it
over
not
to
done.
let's jump over to Rich and see what's going on up in New Jersey, man. Hey, Rich, how you doing?
Hi there. How are you doing? I've
Doing
just
good.
coming off a very busy weekend of not having any time to get on in the WPXCW contest. Doing lots of grandpa stuff and some gardening chores as well. That basically took up just about all the long weekend. Busy, but good. And the weather here has been great unless you're a plant. We haven't had any
Yeah.
rain in 2 weeks and don't have any in the forecast. So a lot of that gardening time was spent watering plants that should be rained on. So.
Well, it's starting to get
And,
hot here, man. You know, that water don't stay on the ground out there long.
You know, today it was only about 70 here, but by the end of the week it's supposed to be in the low 90s. So
Yeah.
we're be following close behind you there. So, and of course we were, totally shocked with the news about Chip coming in last Friday,
Yeah.
and it's just awful.
Yeah, it is, and we're gonna talk about Chip. We're gonna kind of remember him in the second part of the show, and just kind of dedicate the next half of the show to Chip. Chip was a good friend of ours. We've known him for a long time, and it just, man, it was a shock, like you say.
I think one of the incredible things about Chip is that he was a good friend to just about everybody. That's one of the greatest things about him is he was, as I wrote in a piece that we just put out in email and online today, in a hobby full of really nice and really knowledgeable people, Chip was among the nicest and the most knowledgeable of everybody, and very freely shared his knowledge, his incredible adventures of DX around the world, and just being a good friend. And that's it's very sad to lose him, particularly at a relatively young age. So
yeah, I know what you mean here.
Yep.
Well, look, hey, let's talk about CQ magazine, and then we can move on into some of the video we got with Chip here. But tell us what's going on with CQ and what's coming up.
All righty. Well, June issue digital should be in subscribers' video library or Zinio libraries on Thursday, June 1st. And last I heard, we've gotten the presses rolling again, so the print issue should be on the move as well. Not quite yet June, but we got to get. April should be going out this week. The postal regulations say that we have to send them out in order, so we can't skip ahead and then bounce back. So in June, we are actually starting out with our News Bites item, which is usually not one of our featured items, but this time it is. It's a prediction of an early peak to cycle 25 by the same group of solar physicists led by Scott McIntosh, who have correctly so far predicted that this would be a much stronger cycle than the official NASA prediction panel put together. So he thinks that it could be that it peaks this year or next year rather than the predicted time frame of 2025. So that's something to keep watch for, and be sure to take advantage of whatever conditions are out there that are going to be helpful. This issue is a mini balun and antenna special. We've got a bunch of articles, like 5 articles on baluns and antennas. And for those who are not familiar with the term, a balun is really an acronym for balanced to unbalanced. You think about a dipole antenna. It's balanced, the same on each side. And then you got a piece of coaxial cable. It's unbalanced because the center conductor and the shield are different from each other. So to get them to connect properly and transfer the energy properly, you'll need a balun to go between a balanced and unbalanced. So we've got a couple of articles here called, one is by K1BUK on experimenting with the guanella balun, a computer-aided design approach. And K3MT has an article on the Brahman 60-degree balun, or actually impedance transformer. One of the things he talks about in the article is why you really shouldn't call this one a balun, but an impedance transformer. And then for our CQ Classic, we go back to our first article on baluns in 1952 with basic theory and design of baluns. And basically, it hasn't changed in the past 70 years. So it's a good refresher course on the basics of baluns in this issue. And then on the antenna side, K3MT is back as our guest antennas editor this month. Kent was up to his ears in real work that he gets, real money for. So he had to let the column slide this month. So Michael K3MT has a piece on a 3-band vertical beam for 80, 40, and 20 meters called a tri-vertical. And that's really interesting stuff. You think about beams being horizontal primarily, and not necessarily for the low frequencies because they get to be too big. But this is the tri-vertical for 80, 40, and 20. And then our medium and low frequency editor, speaking of low bands, he's got some thoughts on transmit antenna design for 630 and 2200 meters. That's, a whole different ball game down below the broadcast band there. Among some of our other articles, we have a piece from K2ATY on DMR, that's digital mobile radio, on land and sea. He talks about how you can keep in touch with friends back home while you're traveling and even on a cruise. So that's, and you can, it's interesting stuff. He's got a little travel router and a hotspot that shows you how to put them all together to keep yourself in touch with the ham world via DMR. I have a very interesting and kind of disturbing story by our at-large editor in South America, Martin Butera, PT2ZDX and LU9EFO, about a situation in Ecuador where the government there is proposing a spectrum use fee for basically everybody who's using the RF spectrum, like probably not cell phones, I'm guessing. But basically they're planning to charge hams the same amount that they would charge a commercial broadcaster. And the economy in Ecuador is not the greatest, and essentially having to pay these fees, if they're put into effect, would put most of the hams in Ecuador off the air because it's just completely outside of their budgets. So hopefully shining a little light on it here will help put some pressure on the government in Ecuador to take a second look and maybe, exempt hams completely, or at least make a much more reasonable fee to let them stay on the air. We have the results of the 2022 CQDX Marathon, which had the highest participation ever. There was a 46.5% increase in participants. That's not just the number of people submitting logs, but the number of calls in the logs. But there's a big participation. Log numbers, I'm sorry, that is logs were 46% higher in 2022 than they were in 21. So that's pretty amazing. W0RW, our favorite pedestrian mobile operator and writer, has a couple of pieces which we've put together and dubbed Have Radio Will Travel. He's got one piece about operating from the Capulan volcano in New Mexico, up on the ridge of the volcano, and second one operating on the beach, and slightly different needs for each one. While we're traveling, going to the beach, we have a piece on coming ashore for an island dinner by KF7ZN, who's reporting on the 28th annual IOTA, or Islands on the Air dinner at the Visalia DX convention. And it's always an interesting event to attend if you are a DXer. And the banquet there and the IOTA dinner are always very, very interesting. You just get to meet so many really top of the line DXers. And again, everyone is so generous with sharing information and tips that it's really, really a great opportunity. We got a couple of project articles. W3MEO has a short piece on carbon renaissance, on reconditioning carbon microphones and getting them, get a little circuit for them to make sure that they will operate with modern radios. These are the carbon mics are the ones that you would find in an old style telephone. And in fact, I remember, making technical adjustments on the mic element and telephone, but take it out and bang it on the table a couple of times and loosen up the carbon granules in there. K8BYP has a piece on heat sink restoration for old electronics. It's something that's often overlooked when you're doing a restoration, is heat sinks. And of course, they're very important for transferring heat from components to the chassis or other cooling surface. And if you don't recondition those properly, you're not going to have efficient heat transfer. So it's a very important piece for anybody who's interested in doing restorations of old gear. Moving into more current times, we have an introduction by JF1RWZ on IBP Beacon Now. IBP is the International Beacon Project, and he's put together a website. I don't know if all of the viewers and listeners are familiar with the International Beacon Project. There are a bunch of beacons, I think it's 18 of them around the world, that operate in sequence, transmitting at different power levels, and they transmit in CW. And for those who have not yet learned to copy CW, they can be a little challenging to figure out what you're hearing. So he has a program put together, a website rather, that shows you which beacon is transmitting when. So you can have that up on your screen along with listening to it on your receiver. And using that, you can tell which beacon you're hearing so you know where the band is open to. So that's a very cool program, particularly for people who have not yet learned enough CW to be able to copy them directly. And speaking of learning CW, we have a book review of Chris Rutkowski's book, The CW Way of Life, which is a really, really fascinating book on, it's not just how to learn code, but it's really an amazing piece on the way of thinking that helps you learn Morse code. Our review is by David Ring, N1EA, who is one of a shrinking breed of professional telegraphers. He spent many years working in the Merchant Marine as a radio officer, and one of his first assignment, he and his colleague on the ship they were on picked up a distress call from a sinking ship, all in CW, and so he's a fascinating person himself. So he's, but the in the book, Chris NW6V compares CW to music, and music that you can feel, and thinking of it in terms of music rather than just dots and dashes can make a difference. You want the rhythm and the basically the melody. So it's a really, really interesting book. So anyone out there who is interested in learning CW and learning it so that you can be comfortable copying it, I would recommend this book to you. It's and I know there are a lot of people out there who are learning Morse code. It's really fascinating. 15 years ago, when the code requirement was dropped, there was a lot of people who said that Morse would die without having it as a license requirement. And in fact, just the opposite has happened. Interest has grown. Even though you don't need to take it for your license anymore, it's become a challenge instead of an obstacle. And there are a lot of people out there who are learning Morse code because they want to, not because they have to. So there are a lot of different methods and opportunities of different ways to learn code, whatever works best for you. Among some of our columns, in emergency communications, K3PFW continues his series called What You Gonna Do When the Lights Go Out? He wraps that up. And kit building editor Joe K0NEB finishes up his piece on the Saguaro from DZ Kits and tells us what he saw and heard at Ozark Con, which is a fun conference. Analog Adventures editor KL7J writes about tank circuits, which most of us have heard of, and most of us probably don't really understand either. So it's a good read. In Ham Radio Explorer, Anthony K8ZT tells you how you can check into repeaters around the world without any special radios or anything else. It's basically all about Echolink and how to make use of it. In our DX column, we take a trip to Vanuatu, a South Pacific adventure, the YJ0AD expedition. And that's a really cool story there. And in contesting, we have a little project in there too called building an automatic mult bell. In a lot of the big multi-op contest stations, every time somebody works a new multiplier, they either manually or the software automatically rings a bell so that everybody else in the operating the station knows that you've operated or contacted a new multiplier. So Tim N3QE has a circuit for building your own automatic mult bell. And speaking of contesting, our QRP editor, KA8SMA, offers some contesting strategies for the QRP operator. And finally, in propagation, Thomas NW7US fills us in on what to expect for Field Day at the end of June and talks about angstroms, which, if you don't know what they are, you'll have to read the article and see. So those are the highlights of what's coming up in the June issue of CQ. There's more. I just don't have time to talk about everything. And I am pretty sure that our Spring Fever special is still on. So if you go to our website at www.cq-amateur-radio.com, you can take advantage of that special and both the digital and print editions. And that's what we've got coming up for you in June.
All right. Well, great. Hey, a couple questions. NW7US, isn't he your space editor or something?
He's our propagation editor, yes.
Yeah. I got a note from him at Hamvention that he ended up in the hospital. Is he doing okay?
Yeah, he's doing fine. He's home, and he's putting the finishing touches on his July column right now. Yeah, he had some issues out there and ended up taking an ambulance ride to the hospital in Xenia, and then got moved to another hospital for a while, and he's finally back home.
Well, that's terrible.
He lives in Ohio, so it's not like he was stuck 1,000 miles away from home.
But what a bummer! You go to Hamvention. The first day you're there, you get an ambulance ride to the hospital. I think he was in critical care condition there for a while. So I'm glad he's doing better.
Yeah.
Hey, you also mentioned the Beacon Project, and Glenn is very aware of this. He's working on something similar to this, but This is a little indicator for the Beacon project. Have you seen one of these, Rich?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's
And what
very
it is,
cool too.
basically, like you said, there's a frequency for each of the bands, and we've got little LED lights here, and it's all synchronized by atomic clock. And what happens is it will actually, the light, when Africa is transmitting on 20 meters, the light will light up in Africa, and you can tune your radio to the 20-meter frequency. And if you hear the CW and that light is on, you know the signal's coming from Africa. So this is not a receiver. A lot of people think this is a receiver. I think it's got an atomic clock in here just to synchronize the clock. This is not a receiver. It just synchronizes to the time slots that you were talking about, and then you have to use your receiver to tune in those frequencies and match them up with the lights, so you'll know where it is. And they transmit. I think they transmit like 10 watts, and then maybe 1 watt, and then 100
I think they
milliwatts.
start out at 100 watts,
100
then
watts.
10, and then 1 or something like that.
Yeah. The power keeps
It's
getting lower and lower,
yeah,
so you can
right.
check the propagation there. So
They
cool.
start out at a higher level and then drop down.
Yeah.
And yeah, that MFJ monitor is very similar to what this website is about. The website is available if you don't have space in your shack for that or in your budget.
Well, I don't have space. Yeah.
But it's an
Well, that's cool.
alternative. Basically, does the same thing as the MFJ beacon monitor without being in its own box.
Yeah, and again, no receiver here, no receiver. Glenn, you're working on some secret project. Are you still working on this? Wait, Glenn, I don't hear you. I think you muted, Glenn. Are you muted? Yeah, Glenn's muted. There we go.
Yeah. I am putting a receiver in mine with an Arduino and replacing those LEDs with red, green, blue LEDs.
Whoa.
And that will indicate if you heard it and then whether you heard it on the high or low power settings.
Oh, that's cool.
And
That's very cool.
And it will use a GPS for time sync, so you don't need the atomic clock. And I've got all the parts here. I just need time to build it, but it's right next to the workbench.
You're just doing some amazing stuff there. Cool.
That's the power of the Arduino. You can have all sorts of fun, and all I need is a little receiver.
All right. So, hey, Rich, thanks so much for sharing with us next month there. Sounds like some interesting stuff going on there.
Yeah, I want to see the antennas.
Yeah. So, hey, guys, tonight we're going to talk a little about Chip. And I know Chip worked for CQ for a while. So,
yeah,
you want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, he spent a few years in I guess about 10 years ago now, 2010, 11, 12 area as our advertising manager. He joined us when we had 2 longtime advertising managers, Arnie Sposato and 2IQO, and Don, who I can see in front of me, and I'm blanking on his last name right now. I'm very embarrassed that I can't remember his name right now. But in any event, so he joined us and spent a couple of years as our advertising manager. Then moved on to, I guess he spent close to 30 years with Yaesu. And then when he left there, he went to Ohio Sound for a few years and came to us, and then moved on to, I believe it was Innov Antennas, before settling down a little bit at Ham Radio Outlet, where, of course, his wife, Janet, KL7MF, is a store manager. He was working in their IT area for the last few years and just retired end of last year.
Yeah. So. Well, I don't know. We've got a lot of new hams that have come around since Chip was on the Tonight Show, and it's been a number of years ago. And I'm gonna play that clip here YouTube will probably send me a nasty note for copyright, but that's okay. So guys, some of you know this, and for you guys that don't know Chip actually was on with Jay Leno years ago. I think it was 2005.
Yeah.
2005. That was 17 years ago. So we got a lot of new hams since then. Probably never even heard of this, but back then text was going really big, on your phone, texting, and they had this teenager on that was the world's fastest texter. He held the record for fastest texting. So they had a shootout between Morse code and texting, and I'm going to show you the video of Chip on the with Jay Leno there. Was it called the Tonight Show then? I guess it was.
Yes.
Yeah, on the Tonight Show. So we're going to look at the clip here. It's about 30 seconds long. I don't think it's the entire clip, but you'll get to see the fun and what happened here. So let me bring this up.
And I'm going to say good night to everybody.
Yeah. Good night, Rich.
All right, and hey, you're welcome to stick around with us or leave whenever you want to.
Okay, thanks.
All right, man. Thank you.
And so I strongly recommend that everybody watch the full-length version of this. It is just phenomenal.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. So here we go. Let's see if we can get this playing here.
On it, when I say ready, set, go, when I say go, flip over your card and send the message to your partner at the other desk. Okay? Ready, set, go. Yell out as soon as you have the message and then read me the message. You can hear the Morse code. Can you hear it going on?
Yes, I can.
Very exciting. See who is faster.
All right. So you saw the shootout right there. You saw the shootout between Chip and the text teenager there. CW won. And I don't know, keyboards have come a long ways. I honestly think back then on text, you remember the text keyboards where you had to hit a letter sometimes 3 times to get the right letter?
Right. The old Nokia phone type stuff.
Yeah, the old phones. I don't know if they had that or not, but boy, that would have been tough to do.
I don't know. Those look more like Blackberries. I'm not sure.
Did they? Yeah. Anyway, hey, that was the CW versus text with Jay Leno there, and CW won. And Chip did a pretty good job sending. And if you play that back, it's on YouTube. Just do a search for text versus CW versus text, and you'll find it. Listen to the code. He did a really good job. I do think he messed up on one letter. I've listened to it, and I don't remember what it was, an E or something. I don't know what it was, but I think he missed one letter out of all that. But also, if you were, growing up around then, it was a pretty common phrase. I just saved a bunch of money with my car insurance. So,
yeah,
I don't know, but that was really cool there. Let's see. Let's see what they're saying in the chat room there. Let's see. Yeah.
Chuck was just saying what the message was, but that to me is just one of the best amateur radio promotional clips you'll ever see for CW in particular.
Yeah. So I mean, hey, it was a lot of fun, and hey, ham radio got on the Tonight Show. That's just really, really cool there. And but I talked to Chip about that afterwards, and he said, "Man, the pressure was really there, man. I mean, you got this crowd out there all laughing, and Jay's making comments and jokes, and you don't know if you're going to win or not." And he said the pressure was on, and he knew that if he did not do a good job there, he would never live it down. Yeah.
Well, he did it. He did a fabulous job with it.
Yeah. In fact, a little later in the show, I've got a text. I got a video here where there was another CW basically contest, and he whistled the Morse code.
I can't whistle.
He whistled an entire message, man.
It's amazing.
It was starting to get a little squeaky. I think he had what do you call it? I think it was starting to chirp there toward the end. But, But anyway, so hey, we got a video here. It's a little long, but I want to play it. We may stop it in between and talk about some of the things. Chip was with us. I mean, I've seen Chip many times at different ham fests and around, but Chip has been on our show a number of times, and this is an interview that we picked out. Katie was with us. He's a close friend of Katie, and the video quality was good, and I thought the interviews and the thing were good, and you'll learn a lot about Chip here. And this was about 7 years ago, actually, so it's kind of dated, but then again, it's good to watch. So let me see if we can get that going here. That's not it. And that's not it.
You're running out of tabs there.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put us back on. I'm going to put us, let's see. I'm going to put us back on until I find it. I had it up here a minute ago. Let's see, live streaming. Let's see what this one is. ORS. Okay, I know where it is. I know where it is. I know where it is. I can get it right here. Let me hear you again. I know you went to the dentist earlier, right before the show. Are you talking okay tonight?
I hope so.
All right.
I can hear myself though.
Can you?
I must have something wrong.
Uh-oh. Well,
Yeah.
That's what that dentist does to you sometimes. Well, hey,
He must have put something in my fillings.
Yeah, put one of those little. I always hear about they put the little radio or something, or the filling in your tooth becomes a detector, and you pick up radio stations. Maybe that's what he did. But
Well, when we lived out by Devil's Tower, I could have said, it was to contact the aliens.
Yeah. All right. Well, Katie, tell us what you got for us tonight.
Well, you betcha. I once again roped a friend of mine into showing up tonight on the show and sharing a bit of his ham radio life. And it's my pleasure to introduce Chip Margelli K7JA and bring him onto the show this evening. I have known Chip since about 2007 at where did we first actually meet? It must have been down in Florida at
Orlando.
Orlando Hamcation. I was a staff member for the ARRL, and at the time, Chip was down there with his wife Janet KL7MF, and also hanging out with the one and only Ellen White W1YL. And so that was probably a life-changing weekend for me when a friendship was formed and the foundation was built. And here we are this many years later. And Chip is one of my best friends in the world and someone I talk to on a daily basis. And now we actually work together as well, which is really kind of cool. We've traveled together. We go to a lot of ham fests together. And Chip has been a ham for longer than I've been alive. Sorry, Chip.
All right. This interview is over.
I know. Sorry. But
You
Chip,
really owe me now, girl.
I know. I hope you guys are hearing that. So I thought it would be kind of fun to talk to Chip. I mean, so many people know about Chip having been on the Jay Leno show, which we will talk about at the end of his presentation. But there's a ton of things that Chip has done with ham radio, which I think are so interesting. And I feel like every time I talk to him, he's always building a new antenna and playing for a new satellite. One day he turned the speaker on so I could hear him, and we were listening to what was it, a 10 meter or 2 meter beacon in Hawaii, something like that.
Would have been either 2 meters or 432 on Hawaii via tropospheric ducting on 2 meters. Really exciting.
Yeah, I didn't even know things like that were possible. So for me, besides being a great friend, he's a great mentor and teaches me something all of the time. And so I thought maybe he would have something for all of us to learn from his many years of experience and fun with ham radio. Because that's, no matter what he's doing, he always is having fun with it, because if it's not fun, why bother? And with that, I would like to say, Chip, let's start off with when did you first become a ham, and how did this whole time begin? And I'll let you do what you need to do to get your presentation started. So bear with us for 1 second, folks, while we get that
Yeah, everybody
started.
hang on just a second here, and bada bing, and bada boom, and
Let's make some magic.
start. And then there we go. You got it okay over there?
Yeah, looks great.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I'm trying
Well,
to
thanks,
get you
Katie.
zeroed
It's,
in here.
and Tom, both of you, it's great to be on here tonight. And I guess it's a testimonial to our compatibility that when I first met Katie when she was with ARRL, she had really short hair. And now she's got really long hair. And most people that know me would have predicted it would have gone the other way around. She would have really short hair now just from pulling it all out. But somehow we've managed to coexist. And it's been great having both her and Dwayne as fast friends. I'm going to take just a moment here to describe my march through the years of amateur radio. To answer your question, I got my first license in January of 1963. It's when I got my novice license. One of my playmates' fathers was a ham, K7JA in Tacoma, Washington. And his boy Steve and I would hang out a lot. We'd go on hidden bunny hunts on 6 meter AM. Boy, those were the days, I tell you. Steve never got a license, but I did. So I'm not sure what that means in the grand scheme of things, but I've been a ham ever since. I got my general in 1964. You could only hold your novice license for 1 year then, and then you had to upgrade. And so in 1964, I got my general, and then 1968, I took my extra exam before an examiner at the federal office building in downtown Seattle. That doesn't present a scary thing for a young teenager.
Hey,
I don't know,
Skip,
although
Chip.
I think it steeled me for what was to come in much later years.
Well, Chip, let me
Anyway.
just say, hey, I did the same thing as you. At 1964, novice general, I went down to Memphis, Tennessee to take the test with the FCC, so I know exactly what you went through.
Yeah, and it was somewhat nerve-wracking, and although I think the adrenaline probably increased my code speed by about 25%. And I had no difficulty transcribing perfect copy at 20 words a minute, fortunately, on that day. I grew up in Tacoma, Washington, and was a member of the Tacoma Radio Club of Tacoma, W7DK. That is the second oldest continuously active radio club in the United States, and they are actually celebrating their 100th anniversary. Their centennial is this year. And in mid-October, I'm going to go up for their centennial banquet, and I'm going to be the keynote speaker there. So that should be a lot of fun. We're hoping to have quite a reunion up there. W7DK did a lot of things in those days, but one thing they were really known for were epic field days. They had a location on a dairy farm that belonged to one of their members, Joe Asplund, W7IG. And they would go out there with trailers and tents and everything in the classic style. And this location was absolutely the dream location for any worthwhile HF ham. It was utterly quiet, surrounded by forest for 20 miles in every direction. There was no power line noise, no nothing noise, and you could hear a pin drop across the planet. And of course, in the 60s, especially the very early 60s and then the late 60s, we actually had sunspots. And so when the sun would get going, you could really work around the world 24 hours a day on many bands. And it was a very different situation than today. Anyway, the W7DK crew had some great field days. You can see a fancy mobile set up there in the bottom right. They really knew how to do it in style. But those field days were something that got me going. I really cut my feet in many aspects of ham radio, figuring out about antennas, contest operating, teamwork, from my first field days there at W7DK, and it served me well in coming years. Now from home, those were kind of tough times for a novice, especially. I had a Heathkit HX11, a little 50-watt input, or maybe 75-watt input transmitter there, and you see that silver plate on the left side of it there. That was where you could plug in and unplug your crystal. To change frequencies, you had to change crystals because the novices weren't allowed VFOs in those days. You folks don't know how easy you have it. And then my receiver was a Hallicrafters S120. It was a really fun shortwave listening receiver, but for DXing, it had a whole 1/4 inch of band spread on 15 meters. So between that and having to call CQ on 21-150 and then tune around, DXing was a bit of a challenge. I had 4 DX contacts as a novice, and when I walked into the FCC office to take my general test, I was actually sort of big man on campus. People thought that was quite amazing that I had even worked 4 DX contacts. So bottom of the cycle in the Northwest with modest equipment was a little bit tough. But you learn how to be crafty when you have modest equipment to start, like so many of us did. That's how you learn to be skillful. Well, after several years of working DX and working some contests from home with fairly simple equipment, I got invited to join up with the fledgling W7RM contest crew up at Foulweather Bluff, Washington, ferry boat ride and a half-hour drive away from Seattle. W7RM had just a fantastic location on a peninsula, had saltwater on 3 sides of it. Main part of Puget Sound to the left, Strait of Juan de Fuca, main part of Puget Sound was to the right, to the east. Straight ahead was the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and to the left was Hood Canal. So we had saltwater on 3 sides and then sloping downhill to the south. Spectacular location, and you can see from the antennas, remember, this is 1970 vintage. This was big stuff. The top picture there is 6/3/3/3 on 15 meters. Top right is a 2-element 80-meter beam, rotary. It was big enough because it never lasted through a winter, so it was big enough. Bottom right is a 3-element 40 full-sized Yankee with an 8-element 10-meter beam on the same boom. And to the bottom left was our secret weapon, which was an array of beach verticals, a couple of 4-element arrays on 40 meters and a 4-element array on 80 meters with a 200-foot bluff in back of them. These were facing to the northwest for Japan and to the northeast for Europe. And they were really spectacular. We could get down to about a 0.5 degree, 1 degree takeoff angle, so we could engage chordal hop propagation, which took away intervening hops that hit the Earth. We just go tick, 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 tick off the ionosphere and save 16 dB per hop doing that. And with about 60 dB of front to back ratio, I think you can imagine that we could just about hold down any frequency that we wanted to because we could hear better than anybody on the continent. Those were heady times. We had just a great, great crew of folks. Danny Eskenazi, K7SS, Homer Spence, K7RA, Johnny Kiesel, KE7V, Paul Kiesel, K7CW now, Bob March, N7UA, Rex, K7QQ, and a lot of guest operators would come up. Don Reboff, just lots of folks came up there, but those were special times. And to put it in perspective, we actually won multi-operator, multi-transmitter contests from up there. This was a time in which Japan was going through dramatic growth in amateur radio, and we were able to bury the rest of the country with our JA contacts. We couldn't keep up with the East Coast with countries, with multipliers, but the volume of contacts that we were able to generate, both on CW, but especially on phone, served us extraordinarily well. And we really had some great success there. Along the way, I thought it prudent to learn Japanese. And so At first, Rush W7RM was a little skeptical. He would be perfectly happy if we did 60 to 80 contacts an hour to Japan. But he listened to a few minutes of Gokyu Mado-san, Donafaka, and things like that. And with the first hour of Japanese coming in at 162 contacts on 15 phone, he decided maybe the Japanese stuff was okay. Great times there at W7RM, and probably times that will never happen again because the East Coast has now got volume of contacts of their own, and the Japanese have pretty much quieted down in terms of volume. Well, of course, I couldn't stay in high school forever, and was off to college at the University of Washington. Go Dogs! Absolutely gorgeous campus, as many of you know, and also dormitory Terry Hall. Had a beautiful 4-bay system on 2 meters with which I was able to work quite a distance, especially using Mount Rainier as a reflector. I was able to point that array at Mount Rainier, which was to the southeast, and get into Vancouver, British Columbia on a reflection. The Vancouver repeater would be about 20/9 on the reflection off of Mount Rainier, but only about S7 off direct path to the north. So that was great fun until the head resident made me take it down. Bummer. Well, after I got my MBA and graduated in 1976, I put in an application in Japan and was awaiting a visa. So I took off and did a little de-expeditioning for the 1976 All Asia DX contest in August. I visited Len Coffer, KG6SW, who in later days was KH0AC, and most sadly is a silent key now. And I went out there to work the All Asia DX contest. The picture in the bottom right is the view over my shoulder is towards Japan, and atop that 1,000-foot hill. Yeah, it wasn't fair. So had a lot of fun, and stopover en route to Saipan. We actually had a very nice get together with Nose, Katashi Nose KH6JA, who took us to took us up to Diamond Head and showed us the tunnels and everything. And that was a very exciting time. And we got together also, of all people, with Johnny Johnston, the FCC, who was out there speaking at the Honolulu Radio Club. So I was completely wide-eyed at this point, and it was just getting started. A little later in the year, the visa hadn't come through, so I headed for the Caribbean for CW and sideband sweepstakes from the Virgin Islands, KV4FZ, Herb Schoenboom's place on Fort Louise Augusta. And then to KP4AST, Pedro Pisa, who is now NP4A for the CQ Worldwide DX CW. Had great success there, won the Worldwide for the World from Pedro's place. Took first place on CW and second place sideband from Herb's in sweepstakes. And then Johnny Kiesel, KE7V, and I did some island hopping to St. Lucia, Dominica, and I was on from Antigua, while Johnny was on from Montserrat as VP2M. So fun times getting together and traveling and making new friends throughout the Caribbean. Well, it came to be 1977, and it was really time to get into this career thing. After the Saipan part of the journey, I went up to Japan for 2 weeks and walked the streets, talked to some people, saw the way everything was there. And as I got on the airplane, I said, Chip, don't even think about it. Don't even go there. Don't even think about it. 1 year later to the day, I got on an airplane and moved to Tokyo. So terrific.
Did you apply for that job, or they found you? Or
I wrote a letter to the president of Yaesu, Mr. Sako Hasegawa, JA1MP, and we worked things out that I was able to go over there and spend 2.5 years working for Yaesu as assistant to the president. Yaesu was just starting to introduce a very high-performance line of equipment, really their first foray into the high-performance line with the FT901. High dynamic range, excellent linearity, good receiver performance, and they, I guess, recognized that they needed to communicate the capabilities of their equipment in a powerful way. And so I joined up with this company that had really the greatest production capacity. And to this day, I think they still have the longest production line in the amateur radio industry. Here's some pictures of it from about 1977. Precision stuff then, and same thing to this day. It was quite the operation.
It looks like a massive factory.
Oh yeah, it really was. It was several hundred feet long, and they could turn out quite a few radios per day, even with extensive testing. I was charged, among other things, besides bringing an American outside view of DXing and contesting and operator requirements, I was charged with creating a whole new generation of written documentation, whether it be brochures or instruction manuals or service manuals, all of which I translated from Japanese into English. And so for the better part of 30 years, if it was in English, it came from my typewriter and then from my computer. And that was fun work, being able to communicate what a new exciting radio would do. And it was really a very interesting time to be with a company like Yaesu, who was just really jumping into a whole new generation of equipment.
Did you find it challenging for the technical pieces to make that translation so that it made sense?
Well, I knew what they were trying to say, and then I knew what it needed to say. And so the translations were somewhat liberal.
Gotcha.
I told the story the way it needed to be told based on the technical information that was there.
Oh, all right.
Well,
cool.
And along the way, of course, I really needed to get my head screwed on right. And so I did the smartest thing I ever did, and I stuck a ring on the finger of one Janet Pagin's WA7WMB, who curiously enough tossed away a promising career as a broadcast engineer. He was a master controller at the PBS associate at the University of Washington, as a matter of fact, at the PBS affiliate there. And she tossed that away, and in a very weak moment moved off to Japan with me, and we decided to do this Japanese adventure together.
So, Chip, let me ask you, who's the good-looking fellow there with the long dark hair and the dark mustache there with Janet?
Oh, that's somebody that kept Janet company while I was at the office. The bell-bottom pants are the real good touch, don't you think?
Oh, they look good.
I love that photo.
Well, there were lots of adventures. Very soon after I dragged Janet over there in 1978, we got invited to participate in a matsuri in Meguro with JA1RUR, who's photobombing us in that picture on the right. He was my QSL manager, actually, while I was in the Caribbean, and I had stayed with him on the first trip to Japan. And he was definitely good for a few bottles of beer or lots of bottles of beer, and then getting people to commit to things like carrying a very heavy shrine around the streets of Meguro. In the bottom picture there, you can see one of the problems with being a foot taller than anybody else out there. I had to crouch over to get under this silly thing. Otherwise, if I just picked it up, it would have a severe list to starboard, let's say.
It kind of looks like you're kind of hiding right there, you know?
Well, I wasn't hiding. That's just what it took to get my shoulder on this thing. And we're stomping around the streets of Meguro shouting, "Woshoi, woshoi." And our feet are killing us because we're wearing very, very thin white like stockings that provided no protection. And this went on for 2, 3, 4 hours. I don't know. Fortunately, we had enough beer to where the feet quit hurting after a while. Those were great. I was
going to ask if you use sake as a painkiller.
That was after the beer.
Oh, okay.
That was after the beer. And believe me, there was plenty of it flowing. Japan is a place that I had a fascination with since I first started shortwave listening. I would listen to Radio Japan every night. I was fascinated by the culture. And to be able to live in Japan with all the challenges of being an expat in a country that really wasn't set up to have expats around, it was quite an experience. I lived completely on the economy. We did. probably a mile from anybody else who spoke English. We were completely isolated. Our apartment manager took us under her wing, and Janet taught her how to cook Western style, and she had us over every Monday night for curry rice and for just telling stories and solving the problems of the world. We did quite a few things while we were in Japan. We climbed Mount Fuji. We went to a lot of temples and shrines. We went to the Yuki Matsuri, the snow festival up in Sapporo on Hokkaido Island, which was great fun. Went down to Shizuoka, to Kyoto, saw so many things, especially around the Tokyo area. Great country, great friends. Those are some of the folks from Ieyasu there with Janet on the slope of Mount Fuji. It was a stiff climb. It's really a long hike is all, but you're going through kind of loose pumice, and it's a series of switchbacks, back and forth, back and forth. We started at about 5,000 feet. Mount Fuji is 12,500 feet. About every 1,000 feet, there's a way station where you can get some hot coffee or something sweet. Interesting thing was at about 10,000 feet at the way station, there was a bicycle. And it wasn't a mountain bike. It was a 10-speed. And to this day, we're trying to figure out what a 10-speed bike was doing up that very narrow pathway. But we started climbing at sunset, and we climbed all night. And thousands of people every night are climbing this mountain in the summertime. And all you can see is this back and forth parade of lights that people have on their head, and the tinkle of the bells attached to their climbing sticks there. It's a surreal experience, and very humbling when a 95-year-old lady passes you on the trail saying, "Okay, on your left." Yikes. Ham radio has afforded us not just the opportunity to live abroad, but to travel a number of places. That's one of the neat things about ham radio. You make friends on the air, and in a weak moment, they might say, "Well, when you're out in so-and-so, come visit me." Well, we're not shy about doing that. We've been to Pohnpei, used to be called Pohnpei, in the Federated States of Micronesia. Went there on our honeymoon, actually, and went there several times thereafter. Most recently in 2011, got to swim with the manta rays. We're there a few weeks before Christmas, so we had our Christmas picture taken there. Won the 10-meter contest multi-up for Oceania, and just had a great time. As V63QQ and V63RR. 1984, we were invited by the Chinese Radio Sport Association to come over to Beijing. Now, this is 7 years after the Cultural Revolution is all, so Beijing was not anywhere near what it is today. And we were invited to come over and help train the staff there at BY1PK in the operation of the equipment that Ieyasu had donated for the 10 regional stations in China that were just now starting to get on the air in 1984. And of course, we did some touring, which cut into our operating time. But the day that we came on the air in March of 1984, got on 20 meters. It was in the morning. I said, "Okay, CQ, listening for ones only." And now all I could hear was hiss. And, okay, W2s only. All I could hear was hiss. W3s only. And it was just hiss. Okay, W4s only. And 14,150 to 14,290 erupted with W4 stations. So I started going by state, and Virginia and North Carolina, and I got to South Carolina, and I said, "Okay, I want Carolina DX Association only, and I have a membership list." And of course, their repeater absolutely went bonkers. And sadly enough, we got through Georgia, and I'm just about to hit the great state of Florida, and all the lights went out. Oh. The operator said, "Time for lunch." This was a 9-to-5 job for these guys, and at 12 o'clock, it was time to go eat lunch. And so,
Oh, no.
I was just going to sit there and go all day until the states went away. Well, I had a little apologizing to do the next day, but we made quite a few thousand contacts. And needless to say, we worked everybody with a 14 AVQ and 100 watts at the Carolina DX Association. Great stuff. I was also afforded the opportunity to join up in 1989 with the 4J1FS expedition to Malivasetsky Island. It was the first time a group from Finland, the USSR, which still existed at the time, and the United States to get together to do a de-expedition. I was officially there as the satellite operator, made 650 some contacts on satellite AO13, which was great fun. And I made quite a few thousand others on just 20 meters and 15 meters and wherever else we were. In ZA1A, I was invited to be part of the operator and teaching team with ZA1A in Albania, first operation from Albania of any significance in 5 decades. We did, still trying to remember how many contacts there, 92,000, I think, contacts. I did about 16,000 of those. I was telling Katie earlier, I was there for 10 days, and in those 10 days, I got 12 hours of sleep, 6 of which were in one night. When you're in something like that, you really get going, and you don't want to miss the opportunity to give somebody a contact. So needless to say, when I got home from that, I slept for a month. Also some fun stuff. In 1993 and 1995, I was organizer of a couple of promotional cruises for Yaesu called the DX Carib Cruises. We would go, we left out of San Juan, or out of Aruba, I'm sorry, and did the Southern Caribbean route with quite a few people. We did field day, literally every day of the cruise, another island. I go an hour before the rest of the crew on a shore excursion, set up antennas like crazy. The people would come ashore, make their contacts, go back. We'd go back, put the stations back together on board the ship, get into dinner attire, do our thing at dinner, get back to the station. Then people would work all night on the radio. It was great fun. On the left there, you see Janet and me coming down. I think that was Curacao. And you see Janet's holding VHF antennas. On the second cruise, we actually took moon bounce equipment for 2 meters and made quite a few dozen moon bounce contacts. And tell you what, setting up field day style for moon bounce from Mary Island is quite a thing. And everybody knows how much weight you gain on a cruise. Well, we each lost 10 pounds on each of these cruises. We were working so hard and so long. But again, great fun with wonderful hams. We had on the 1993 cruise there in the back, you can see we had some of the crew. You can't really tell their faces, but third from the left in the maroon shirt in the back is Ron Paris, WA4SIR, the astronaut. Maruk Delina, OH2BH is back there. Ellen White, W1YL is in there. It was great fun. We had guest speakers every night, silly games on the shore or on the day at sea. Very memorable times with great friends.
I've heard about those cruises, and was it just those 2 years that Yaesu, and were they Yaesu sponsored, but everybody bought their tickets like normal,
Yes,
and Yaesu
exactly.
provided equipment?
Everybody bought their tickets as part of the, we had the special pricing and everything for the group, and so yes, just the 2 years, 93 and 95, and they were both Southern Caribbean. Routing. We had one proposal during there. N6DEC Howard proposed to his wife Lori on the cruise. That was fun stuff. And again, just really great times on the high seas. Last year we got as a part of our trip to Puerto Rico for the Puerto Rico section convention. We got to go to the Arecibo radio telescope, and we didn't just get to go to the telescope. We got to walk the catwalk up to the feed of the radio telescope. And you talk about a nerd adventure. That really is something else. Of course, the catwalk there is a little spooky at first. I kept having visions of Short Round in the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, walking out on that catwalk, and you go, "Look, lady, strong bridge, crash!" But it's 500 feet above the dish, the 1,000-foot dish there, and you can see Angel WP3R there, who's the operations director, and the shadow of the feed platform there. The platform and all the superstructure weighs 900 tons. and is supported up there 500 feet above the dish. There's some mechanical engineering in play there, and to walk up there, get the opportunity to go up to that feed was extraordinary. And we've gone a number of places for field day. We actually operated field day from Curacao on one of the cruises, but like a half hour. We barely had any time there. But in 2002, we went to the north shore of Puerto Rico and operated as NP4A from Isabela with a group of the Puerto Rican hams. The night after that, at a mofongo restaurant in San Juan, we formed the Piña Colada Contest Club and decided, asked the inevitable question, where do we go next? And we're talking about, oh gosh, we could do, we could do the Virgin Islands, we could do Aruba, we could do blah, blah, blah. And I piped up, why don't we do Cuba? And everybody looked at me with this strange stare, like, are you out of your mind? And then they said, oh, why don't we do Cuba? And so we put in an application for a specific license with the Treasury Department at the Office of Foreign Assets Control under the category of athletic and other performances, which was a specific category that they allowed. And they came right back and said, yep, that's exactly what we're talking about. The regulations called for involvement of the Cuban people to the greatest extent possible. Well, 2 busloads of members of the Havana Radio Club came out. The regulations are there to encourage people-to-people contacts. We call those QSOs, folks. And the encouragement of contact with everyday people, not government officials, got taken care of because we get bonus points for being in a public place. And so all these things played very well. We had a great time. They even gave us the call sign CO0 Uncle Sam. And to see the Cubans chuckling as they called CQ using CO0 Uncle Sam, that great stuff.
That's pretty epic.
Yeah, it's fun stuff. We're ready to go back, needless to say. And then 3 times we operated from St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, as KP2AA. You can see me operating on SO50 satellite with my very important sign that says beat W2GD. Always, whatever you do, you got to beat W2GD. Hope you're watching, Crivelli. Of course, anybody that knows me knows that I am a field day addict. Some strange people in Wyoming named Dwayne and Katie got a good dose of that. And we've been up there a couple of times for field day. You can see me connecting the coax to the 6-element Yagi for 6 meters. That's not just coax, that's half-inch hardline. In an emergency, you've got to have the very best. And so it was pretty fun stuff. We definitely enjoyed our trips to Wyoming. I'm a serious junkie for field day. I don't do things halfway. You can top left is this past year at N6HC, a 10 and 6 meter array, 5/5 on 6 meters, and a nice 5-element beam on 10 meters. Satellite equipment down there below from W6ZE. And I'm kind of proud of this K7JA PMRL, the poor man's rocket launcher, which basically is an ABS tube that is hose clamped to a steel chain link fence post and then stoutly guide. And then up through that ABS from the bottom, you start shoving the stackable military mast that you find at the hamfests. And it makes a very effective mount for antennas. So in fact, both of these antennas in top left are on PMRLs. So great fun. And the mother of invention is the necessity to be loud on field day.
Absolutely.
These days, besides working behind the scenes doing IT work for HRO, I do a lot of master ceremonies gigs. I'm not quite sure how it came to be, but fools give me the gavel and I pound it. I do a lot of convention duty, of course, as need be. And of course, I'm always planning for field day. I think this was this past year. You can say we got the TS990 out there. Got to make sure you got the very best on field day. And emergencies call for that. And so it's great fun. Of course, I'm always tinkering with antennas. The years at W7RM and all the years at Field Day have made me a wicked tinkerer for antennas. And I'm always changing things. There's my, on the left side is the latest tri-bander that I just put up, seems to work well. Latest satellite antennas are on the right side. It's crossed Yagis on 2 meters, 6 elements each polarization, and then a pair of Yagis right-hand circular there on the left side of that boom for 435. And I love to be up on the tower. I feel safer up there than I do on the 405 freeway, and it's the view is great. And this, there's nothing bad about a bad day of antenna work. There ain't no such thing. But of course, we whatever you want to be thinking about in terms of ham radio. The travel opportunities and meeting up with great friends, especially ones you talk to on the air, are always there. Dwayne and Katie there in Scotland with us a couple of years ago. It's hard to imagine. My dear
G1 MHU was asking a minute ago, no Scotland pictures. So there you are.
There you go. Our dear friend and third mother, if you will, Ellen White, W1YL, truly a legend in amateur radio, decades on the headquarters staff at ARRL in Newington, in the communications department, contest write-ups, and a true legend in amateur radio. And she is now terrorizing 80, 40, and 20 meter CW via remote capability out to the West Coast in Nevada, keeping up with her old buddies that she used to work before she had moved to a townhouse. And so great fun. And Ellen has just been a dear friend for decades, and we love her just with all our hearts. There's the Pina Colada Contest Club bottom left, and of course the conventions, especially when you've got the bully pulpit, you get the honor of introducing famous people. There's Vice Admiral Scott Redd, K0DQ, whom I had the honor of introducing 6 years ago in Visalia at the International DX Convention. Needless to say, I was breathing air way above my pay scale when I made that introduction. But great to go to conventions and see the wonderful hams throughout the world. And the world of DX, the world of contesting has brought all these things to me. It's brought skill sets, it's brought travel adventure, but most of all, it's brought great friends. Of course, there is one thing else that the skill set also brought, and I think a few people know about this, 2006. And with that, I will give it back to Tom and tell me when you've grabbed it so I can escape from here.
All right. Well, hey, I love that picture there with Jay. That's something. Okay. Well, I tell you what. Hey, it's been exciting so far, and we've got a lot more of some fun and interesting things to talk about while you're coming back to us. Yeah, my mic turned off here. Okay. Wow, what an amazing trip we just took with Chip over his lifetime in ham radio. And Chip has been everywhere and just about done everything. I know we've got a few people that came in late. And again, I want to play the little 30-second clip again. I'm just amazed at this clip. It was just a neat thing that the Tonight Show did. And we're going to play this clip one more time here. And for those that came in late, maybe you have never seen it before. So just to let you know what this is, there was this contest between the world's fastest texter teenager and Chip in CW. CW versus texting. And this was on the Tonight Show. And here it is. Let's see what we can see it here. And we'll play it one more time. One more time. Here we go.
Ready, set, go. When I say go, Flip over your card and send the message to your partner at the other desk. Okay? Ready, set,
both FM.
yell out as soon as you have the message and then read me the message.
Mode signal
You
simultaneously.
can hear the Morse code. Can you hear it going on?
Yes, I can.
DS3
Very
Bluetooth
exciting.
headset provides hands-free communication.
See who is faster.
Ian, show your position, course and speed with the integrated GPS receiver. Guy's most popular. All right. Well, I had two audios running at the same time. Let me stop it. Heck, I'll figure this thing out in a minute. Figure it out in a minute. Okay. Anyway, just wanted you guys to see that, and in case you've missed it over the years, that was 2005, I think, actually. So that's been about 17 years ago. All right. Well, hey, man. Well, hate to have lost Chip here. He was a great friend, and as you saw, he's very involved in ham radio. Ham radio was a part of his life, just about all of his life, all his jobs, and everything he did, and everything he touched. All right. So, hey, Glenn, what do you think, man? Did you?
I loved it. I just thought it was cool. You know, just such a great man.
Yeah. I mean, you know, a lot of people don't know. I mean, hey, if you bought a Yazoo rig back, I mean, he worked for Yazoo for many years. He's the one that wrote all the documentation and converted it into English. And there you go, man.
Yeah.
But he's worked at Heil Sound and CQ and Yazoo and a lot of other companies. And if you guys want to check his bio out, just go to his QRZ page. It's called his K7JA. K7JA is the call. You can look him up there, and to give you a little history and background on his jobs and all the things he accomplished during his lifetime. So we're going to greatly miss him. Makes you think. Let's have fun with ham radio while we can. I think Chip was 73, and I'm not sure why he passed away. What happened? I think it was fairly sudden. But 73 years old. I hope that was young. I mean, my age is 75, so I might need to start thinking about doing more ham radio myself here and having a lot more fun, I think. But hey, that's the thing about ham radio. It brings a lot of neat fun into your life. And I know Chip had it with his wife there, Janet, and they got to travel all around the world and do ham radio.
Yeah, that's just cool.
Yeah, let's see. I'm trying to get, okay. Well, I guess that's looking all right there. Okay, well, guys, it's about 9:27 here. Woo, it's been a long night. I'm about ready for some popcorn or something. Well, what about you, Glenn? You ready for a snack?
I'm ready for a snack, and of course, the cat's getting restless.
Yeah.
She is feeling good. She doesn't understand why she has to stay in a cage. So the next 3 weeks are going to be a lot of fun. But she has to stay locked up for 3 weeks until the surgery all heals.
All right. Well, take care of them there, and
give me some popcorn. And just watch TV.
Now, let me ask you now: is your employer giving you the day off because of the cats here? I mean, are they like children?
No. I fortunately have a job that allows me to work from home.
Oh,
and
okay.
So for this time being, for this week, I only go to the office 2 days a week as it is because of the COVID and just desk space in general. So all of my tasks can be done remotely. So for this week, I'm going to be working from home. And so I have a kennel for the cat in here, a nice show kennel that is nice and roomy for her. And so I set her down where she can see me, and I get my work done when she's she's usually drugged up and relaxing, but it's evening and she's kind of getting antsy because she's used to having me around.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, popcorn and TV will do it.
All right. Well, hey, let me make an announcement here. We're getting close to the end of the show, actually. Hey, guys, you've been watching and listening to Amateur Radio Roundtable. It's been a show about ham radio, electronics, and shortwave. And we just want you to join our Facebook group, if you will. Our Facebook group is called W5KUB. Join us there, and also hit that subscribe. Oh, I can't do it here. Let's see. Do it there. Hit that subscribe button right there. That'll help you subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can see shows that we put on here. And if you're out there listening on WBCQ shortwave, you're listening on Thursday afternoon between 5 and 7 p.m. We'd love to hear from you. Send us an email to tom@w5kub.com. Love to hear from you, and tell us where you are and how you're hearing the station there. All right. Well, I still hadn't figured out what you brought me back from Dayton yet, man.
I brought you the hats.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, you just saying that. I know it was something a lot better. Yeah, I know. You just saying that. You didn't want everybody to, know.
Well, see, now here's the problem. I did bring you something back, but I really wasn't going to say it on the air, but
yeah,
the cat ate it, and that's why the surgery.
No.
So
no, man.
We're kind of waiting for it to make its grand entrance.
Yeah. All right. Well,
it'll be disguised in the form of a hairball.
Yeah, it happens. It happens, man. Now, did you have to take the cat to the vet to get the hairball out? Couldn't you reach in there and get it?
No, unfortunately not. We were actually at the over near you at the Memphis Veterinary Specialist, and they had a special team of surgeons do the work for her.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And that was on Sunday. So yeah, they got paid overtime.
Have you got cat insurance?
No, I don't.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, man.
The good news is she's healthy and everybody's happy with her progress. Everything's fine. And it's just having a cat that doesn't want to be locked up. And when you're dealing with a Maine Coon, you're dealing with a very strong, bull-headed kind of cat. And so she's already figured a way to get the collar, the cone off of her head. She's already done that once. So, and that was on her first day home. So,
but you got to give her another Valium.
Yeah. But unfortunately, we still have a few more hours before she gets her next Valium.
I want her to give it to her a little early. Hey,
I just fed her on the break, so
I noticed some people were mentioning the Huntsville in the chat room earlier. Man, can't wait. It's a good one, man. Huntsville.
Yeah, I've got my room reserved. I'm going to be doing a forum. I don't know what day, but I will be doing a forum. I'm hoping to put together a new one. The one in Dayton went over extremely well, but you know me, I don't like to do the same thing twice. So I'm looking to put together a new Arduino forum for Huntsville. And I can't swear that I'm going to be able to do that, but that's what's in the cards right now.
Yeah, I was contacted by Mark and Art there at Huntsville. We confirmed, yep, we'll be there. We've been going now for 20 or more years, and we feel like we're part of their group here. And
I love Huntsville.
We got some new vendors coming back that I think weren't there the last year or two. Let's see, was Yesu not there last year?
I don't think Kenwood was there last year.
Yeah, I think one of the big radio vendors, they're coming back this year.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Yesu was there last year.
Yeah, I think they were. So so they're already working on the layout, the floor plan layout for all the spaces there, and not sure where we'll be yet. Normally we're up by the stage, but just wherever they put us, we'll be fine, and we're going to have fun. We'll be webcasting again, and we'll try to have a lot more prizes this year, more than we did for Dayton this year. You know, in Dayton we only had a 1-day webcast. The Huntsville Ham Fest it'll be 2 days, Friday and Saturday. No, is that right? No, not Friday.
It's Saturday and Sunday.
It's Saturday and Sunday. It's Saturday and Sunday. Friday's the setup day. Friday's the setup day. So
I go over Friday
Yeah.
and usually spend
Yeah.
the day at the Space and Rocket Center or do something around town, and then
oh yeah.
do the Ham Fest Saturday and Sunday.
So we've been going down on Thursday now. So I can be right number one in line Friday morning when they open that door, you know, to drive the truck inside. You mentioned the Space Center. I know Brett's coming. He said he had reservations. He's coming now. They want to go out to the Space Center. Hey, I'm telling you, the Space Center, you could spend most of the day out there. There's a lot to see.
Oh,
A lot
yes.
to see. And also, let me just say this. Now, don't be surprised, but it's kind of costly, some of the things. If you paid for everything you want to do out there at the Space Center, it's probably going to cost you more than a hamvention might cost you. I don't know.
Well, probably, but you know,
Yeah.
it's fun. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you know, I went for my first time just before COVID.
Mhm.
And you know, I just dearly loved it. And of course, that was one of the first things I did once the Ham Fest started back up. And like I say, I go over Friday morning, and so I spend, you know, I'm generally there about 10 or 11 Friday, do the Space and Rocket Center, and then go get some dinner and just hit the sack early, so I'm ready for the Ham Fest in the morning. And then afterwards, you know, generally we're both so tired, or I'm so tired and everything, that I'm staying over Sunday. Might as
Yeah.
well, and you know,
Yeah,
stay
yeah.
for the
And
drawings.
that's the reason we just stay Sunday too, just to relax.
Yes,
We
It's-
don't want
it's-
to pack up and head home, you know, Sunday
it's a
afternoon.
nice leisurely
Yeah.
drive home.
Yeah, pretty nice there.
But yeah, but
Oh,
that's
let's
not
see.
until August. I don't think I've got a Ham Fest on the books until August now.
Yeah. Now, if you come up with some more nearby, let me know. I want to try to hit some of the more local ones. You know, if they're within a few, you know, a couple 100 miles or something, I'd like to go to them. You know.
Yeah, the big thing is I've got to get the book done. This book is due on October 1st, and that's really
Yeah.
where my focus is right now.
Yeah. All right. Hey, stand by just a second. We'll be right
Uh-huh.
back, guys. We're not going anywhere. We're going to take just a 60-second break here. Got cabin fever? Look no further. Spring is in the air, and ICOM has just what you're looking for. We have top quality base stations, mobiles, and handhelds that are perfect for working your favorite bands. Want to catch a sneak peek at our upcoming IC905 SHF release? See it at our booth at the Dayton Hamvention. ICOM's newest amateur FM transceiver is the IC V3500. With a compact body and simple interface, this radio is a must for those looking for a long-range mobile with a fresh look. The ICT-10 is a rugged portable that meets or exceeds standard military testing. With an IP67 waterproof rating, the ICT-10 can withstand any field activities ahead. Hear transmissions and listen to FM broadcasts with the loud 1500 milliwatt speaker. The IC7300 is a high-performance, innovative HF transceiver with a compact design that will far exceed your expectations. This innovative HF transceiver digitizes RF before various transceiver stages, reducing inherent noise in different IF stages. The IC7300 changes the way entry-level HF is designed. Visit www.icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on ICOM radios. All right, and we are back. And I'm getting ready for popcorn, man. I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, popcorn sounds good.
Yeah, okay. Hey, thanks to everybody for joining us tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show. It was kind of a remembrance of our friend Chip Margelli, K7JA, and his life and all the things that he did for all the hams and ham radio. Amazing guy. And,
Absolutely.
We'll miss him. Good night to everybody. It's 73. You don't know what that means. That means best regards. Let's stay here one more minute. Let's start an argument. Let's start an argument. in the chat
Oh
room.
God, 73 versus 73s.
Yeah. Is it 73s or 73? Now, come on. Chat
Well-
room, what is it? 73 or 73s? Which is okay to say?
Well, see, you're not going to get an argument out of me because I'm old school. I'm 73.
Well, I'm 73s and I'm old school.
Yeah.
Hey, what's old Herman Maxim? What's the guy's name? I saw a QSL card he wrote in like 1901. He had 73s on it.
Well, I mean, there you go. If that's what he did, that's your definitive answer.
There he is. I mean, the guy that basically invented ham radio, he said 73s. So I know that'll start a big argument. There's going to be people in the chat room right now that will argue that. You know, they're going to say, well,
at the end of the day,
yeah.
At the end of the day, you're only arguing over three little dits. Is it really worth it?
Yeah, you are. You know, I know they're going to say, well, you're saying best regard is, well, I can't even say it.
Best regards is.
Best regards is, yeah, whatever. Okay. All right. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's kind of like Christmas presents. It's the sentiment, not the exact detail of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, we're obsessing on the wrong things in that regard, I think. You know,
and 88 is love and kisses. So what is 88? Love and kisses is.
Well, that'll get you slapped.
Yeah, it will. It will. You gotta watch it, man.
Especially this day and age. So no. Yeah. 88s need to go away.
I figured I'd stir up the chat room really bad there. There's a few of them in there talking about it. They know what we're talking about. All right, so look, I'm just gonna say this. Good night to everybody. 73s to everyone out there.
73, y'all.
Good night.